As I run the Founding Fathers Quotebook app, there is one thing that I'm noticing that I'm not totally happy about. Watch what happens when I rotate the screen. So landscape, everything looks great. So I'm going to rotate to the right again. Watch that home button. See the home button's on top? It's upside down portrait and it's not rotating. So if I rotate again to the right, yeah, it rotates to the other landscape, and portrait right side up is supported. Now, in previous versions of the Human Interface Guidelines document, Apple would say, maybe you don't want to support upside down portrait on a phone, but maybe you do. It sort of depends on the circumstances. The problem is that when you're upside down like this, the user might think they're speaking into the microphone when really they're speaking into the earpiece. And so upside down portrait is a little bit dangerous on a phone. And so the default is, if I go look at the settings over here, the default on my project is to have upside down portrait not supported. But if it were an iPad, the default would be to say, yes, it is supported for an iPad. Well, I'm going to go check this box upside down. Notice that when I modify this file, what really happens is my info plist is getting changed. That info plist has a bunch of properties, one of which is supported interface orientations. And that's the property that changed. We added the portrait with the home button on top, upside down portrait, whereas it was already there for landscape. In fact, if I go to the versions editor here, you'll see that that's the one change here in the file, is that we pick up portrait upside down on the phone orientation. Okay, so let's get back to the regular editor. Having done this much, let's go run the app again, and all should be well with the world, right? Okay, here's portrait right side up, and now here's landscape, and here's upside. Wait a second, what's going on? Okay, it doesn't work. So apparently changing that key was not enough. Well, as it turns out, every view controller that's present in your hierarchy needs to support, it needs to declare, I support orientation I support rotation into this orientation, or the device won't allow the rotation. So let me look at my storyboard here, and let's look at our configuration. See, I have all of these view controllers, and so here's my quote of the day view controller, and here is my navigation controller. Well, the navigation controller by default isn't saying I'm okay with upside down portrait. So we've got to fix that. We're going to make ourselves a new view controller that I'm going to call a rotating navigation controller. So a new Swift file, I'm going to call it rotating navigation controller. Oh, and I've already done this. Yes, I want to replace this. Okay. Now, got to import UIKit. So UIKit class rotating navigation controller, which is, it inherits from UI navigation controller. And now there are two things that I need to implement here. One is there's a question, should auto rotate? Now, should auto rotate is a computed property. We've learned about those in day 4, I believe. Should auto rotate, so I want to say yes, just no matter what, I want to say yes, go ahead with the auto rotation. Always true. Now the second piece to this recipe is I need to declare what are the supported interface orientations. So here's another thing that I can override, supported interface orientations. And now this is again a computed property just like the other one was. And so I need to return something. I need to return a UI interface orientation mask. So UI interface orientation mask dot, and now all is what I'm after. I want all orientations supported. You see there's a landscape which covers either case, landscape left or right home button. There's a portrait upside down. Okay, but I want the combination of all of them. So I'm just going to hit return and select all. Now the thing about Swift, remember, it's going to infer whatever it can infer. And in particular, it can infer this class name. So I can select that and delete it and just return .all, and Swift knows exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about .all on UI interface orientation mask. Okay, so we've created a view controller. Now let's go back to our storyboard, and let's go use the identity inspector And select this navigation controller, and on the identity inspector, instead of UI navigation controller, we'll say you're a rotating navigation controller. And while I'm at it, let's do it for the other navigation controllers here in my storyboard, so they can all rotate. Okay, and now if I run the thing, okay, so we are upside down portrait right now. It comes, and it is properly rotated. All orientations are supported. Okay, so now one interesting thing here, let's quit that simulator and let's go to the iPhone X simulator. And let's see what happens here. Okay, so it boots my iPhone X simulator. Okay, so here we are, notch at the top, and it's just fine. Notch to the right, it's just fine. Notch to the bottom, no rotation. So that little recipe is not going to work for the iPhone X. The iPhone X is not going to allow me to do the upside down orientation. I don't know exactly why they've turned it off. Probably it has something to do with the notch, but I haven't been able to find any documentation to teach me about why they've made that choice. If any of you know, please connect me to the information on that one so I can see Apple's official declaration about why that's not supported. But anyway, it appears that for iPhone X, we're just not going to do upside down portrait in spite of our best efforts here. Okay, well, that's the end of this video. I'll commit those changes to the Git repository.